Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Hey Teddy, have you noticed how little attention science and health issues get in the media?
Totally, Edgar, yet science information is very important.
Yeah, for sure. That's why the Health Journalists Network is here.
How can they help?
They are a group of journalists dedicated to advancing public understanding of healthcare issues through impactful reporting on health and science.
Oh, really?
Yes, they meet up every month with scientists and researchers, policymakers, and activists at the Science Media Cafes. They then relay what they discuss to the public.
Does that benefit us?
Oh yes, very much so. This helps with health and science literacy for a healthy Ugandan society.
Okay. I love getting informed about science and health issues. Health information makes all the difference between life and death. I'll look them up and engage them.
That's great. They are based all over the country.
Oh, okay. That's interesting, and they should be making real impact.
They are empowering health communities through journalism. Journalists can save lives just like doctors.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
To the Hotline Show, to yet another exciting and insightful episode on this Monday evening. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga, and today we are going to be having a conversation of what is happening in the country as we speak today. Dr. Kizza Besigye was last week arraigned in the court-martial and of course charged with different cases. I'll be telling you about those cases. And of course he was remanded up to the 2nd of December this particular year. That's when you're going to be hearing more of that. But also throughout the weekend, a couple of audios have been leaked on social media. These audios purport to be a conversation between Dr. Besigye and a few individuals plotting to secure arms and of course cause some change in the government or in the status quo in Uganda today. And of course many people are saying that this was Dr. Besigye. He was trying to solicit for weapons and support, and of course this is one of the charges that have been put on Dr. Besigye, soliciting for resources, so that is one of the things. And of course they say this was done last year and also this year between cities like Athens and also in Nairobi, among other places. How true are these cases? Dr. Besigye denied the cases, and his colleague with whom they were charged. And of course, they will be returning back, as I've told you, on the 2nd of December. News coming in from the legal team of Dr. Besigye is that, as we speak today, Martha Karua, who is the former Minister for Justice in Kenya, she is going to be leading that particular group, or the lawyers that are going to be defending Dr. Besigye in those cases. So that is one of the things that we have found out today. And of course, we have a lot of news stories going on in the country. Last week also, the National Unity Platform members who were detained earlier on pleaded guilty, as you all know, and of course they received a presidential pardon. And of course, as we're speaking today, they're out and they are free. Now this also comes at a time when the political tensions are rising, and many people are saying that these were just political prisoners, and of course they were coerced and forced into accepting the charges of treachery and possession of explosives. And this also brings up another issue of the general court-martial. Many Ugandans, or some Ugandans, believe that this particular court is notorious for being used by Mr. Museveni, especially in political trials and politics as usual. And of course they're using this as a tool to coerce very many opposition players to first of all accept the charges that have been arraigned on them, but to also try to demoralize them and force them into doing things or accepting things that they have not done. How true is this? I'll be asking the lawyers that I have in studio tonight. Also in this particular country today, a few individuals from the Forum for Democratic Change, specifically the Katonga faction have been arrested and taken to the Central Police Station, CPS. This is because they tried to protest and also walk to the Kenyan High Commission demanding or, advocating for the release of Dr. Besigye, but also condemning the manner in which Kenya is being accessory to these particular crimes that are happening in Uganda today. Many of them have been arrested, including Semujunganda and Ingrid Turinawe, both members of FDC. And still in the news this evening, the Kampala parents' school teachers continue with their strike over what they call meager salaries. They say they have not been paid well, first of all, and when you juxtapose with some of their Indian counterparts, they are getting much more than they, as the Ugandan citizens, are getting. They are saying this is very, very unfair to them, and of course they are teachers who are in the profession of serving the country. Maybe I'll conclude with the rampant cases that of murder that are going on in the country. In the weekend that was yesterday, there's a district health officer from Arua district who was murdered in cold blood over cases of land wrangles in that particular area. But also on the same weekend, we had a brother to the Deputy Lord Mayor, that is Tugume Gideon, also being murdered in Kiwatule along with another person after some people holding guns entered his shop, his mobile money shop, and tried to rob from him. In fact, and robbed from him, but not only this, but took away his life. Now, I also request you, as the watchers of Digitalk, to be safe, because these rampant crimes also affect us in a way or the other. So feel free to send in your comments, questions, and queries on our social media platforms. That is at Digitalk TV, but also at the Alternative Uganda. That is on Facebook, on YouTube, and all other social media platforms. We want to hear from you. So join the conversation and tell us what you think about the arrest of Dr. Besigye, and of course, what is your comment on everything that has unfolded over this last week and this particular week. Thank you so much for joining us. Allow me welcome our panelists or guests for this evening's show. I have our gentleman called Counsel Eron Kiiza. He's an advocate with the High Court, but is also a human rights lawyer. It's always a privilege having you, sir.
Yeah, the honor is mine, the delight is mine to be here.
Okay. And of course, Honorable Pollar, Awich, retired Major. He's also a lawyer, by the way, so I can call him Counsel Pollar.
Also an advocate.
And also an advocate. And also an ambassador. And also a major. You're most welcome, sir. It's always a privilege having you.
Thank you, and greeting to our viewers.
Okay. I want to start with Counsel Eron, because it's been a while since you were here, sir. How are you? And how do you find Uganda today?
I am great in a difficult country. Beautiful sun and a wonderful landscape, but poorly governed and a highly militarized state to the detriment of ordinary people. But also the economy is in shambles. Shambolic has not recovered from COVID. So ordinary people can hardly earn a living, a decent living. People are going hungry. People are dying because they can't get medicine, they can't afford health services, which are actually expensive. Of course, chronic diseases are increasing due to pollution, and a lot of pollution, both of the food, the water, and the air. And our natural resources are being depleted. They are hemorrhaging due to corruption, spiraling corruption. There's rampant corruption from #1 head of state up to the LC1. So we are losing forests, we are losing wetlands at a terrible rate, and the resources, the few resources that taxpayers pay, are also being mismanaged. So the beautiful country, the power of Africa, has the wrong people in charge of it. And the sooner Ugandans wake up and eject them, the better for this country.
Wow. Okay, you mentioned the economy, but some studies show that this country is one of the fastest growing economies on the continent as we speak. I think it's the second, according to the latest survey I read.
Those guys need to be investigated. I've told you this economy has not even recovered from COVID. The ordinary taxpayer is being hounded because URA can hardly meet the revenue targets. The people find that whatever little money they're able to earn, they have spent more at the end of the month, and that is for people who can actually talk about the money economy. But even more people are suffering. When you saw the Chisoro NRM by-elections, people are being bribed by how much money? Very little money. So Ugandans are vulnerable. The economy is weak, and it is poorly managed.
Okay, thank you.
Not only poorly managed, but also the management is highly militarized, meaning that in a weak economy, also people's civil liberties are being infringed upon.
So they are poor, they are broke, but also they don't have the voice to speak.
So the money is being spent on wrong priorities. You can imagine we don't have money to feed our people, to equip our health centers, but a group of soldiers ran to Kenya to pick our political leader, Kizza Besigye, hound him and put him in a military detention, and of course charged him in a kangaroo court at Machinde, which is incompetent, incapable of fairness, certainly not impartial, and which is part of the executive. It's very unfortunate how we are spending government money.
Okay, we shall get to that conversation, but let me first come to you, Honorable Pollar. You're smiling sarcastically, I would say.
Happily, he's not sarcastic, he's happy.
Do you also concur with the issues? This man paints a very gloomy picture of the country, and you always hear saying that a country that does not even have news, Uganda is doing very well. Nationally, it's a good country. What do you have to comment on the issues or some of the sentiments that Council has over how Uganda is looking like
the
today?
facts, not sentiments.
It's sentiment for now. Shall get the evidence.
Thank you so much. Why I'm smiling is because I find my land friend just having words on his lips. Just lips, words are just coming out, really without any ground. So I'm just amused. And again, as I said always, some of our colleagues now in the community have a preset mind such that even if you move a person from this TV to the next, they will say the same thing. Even if you change the topic to germination of
Museveni is bad.
we'll come back to Museveni is bad. Even if you were talking of anything. So it is a pre-recorded mindset, which is really, it's okay, let them continue to have. But and part of why I was smiling was whether to respond, because I didn't want bilaterals at this stage. I just thought I would talk my things and let my friend say what he wants. In any case, this is not the first time, and as I said, he will say it again somewhere else.
Okay.
But the people will always be the judge. Now, I just want to say, this last week, I spent a big part of the week in Toro. Left Kampala on Wednesday.
Yes, sir.
During the morning hours, and I came back to Kampala Saturday night, midnight, which was already Saturday. And I wanted to take a test case of what Uganda is through my traveling. Because I passed Mitiana, Mbende, and then went to Fort. And then I deliberately left Fort to Kasese, back through Bunyaruguru, Bushenyi, Umbara, and back.
Oh, okay.
And you could see what Uganda is. And that is not as badly governed as it is alleged. Because the scenery is green, matoka is everywhere, there's production. You see, even the constitution that we talk about, the test of one of the litmus tests of a constitution is that there must be productivity going on in the country. A poor constitution, people won't even put, leave alone security and all that. So it must crystallize into people's productivity. So they go thorough, especially. Oh my God, you'd think you're in Europe. The gardens are well planned. The roads, can you imagine from Kampala, through the routes I've said to Kampala, tarmac. And I'm told that even from Fort through Oima, you can leave Fort Fortal through Oima to Sudan on tarmac. From Fort to Sudan. That is Fort Fortal, Oima, Masindi, Bulisa, River Nile. From River Nile, you cross the national park to Arua, or you divert to Gulu, up to Sudan. Tarmac. Everywhere. First class. Good. And it made me, because it was a big conference, so I had to bring myself close to the Rwenzori people, because they were looking at me like somebody from Lira, and maybe I was a stranger. I asked them to give me a minute before I could make my presentation, to bring myself closer to them. And I told them that I grew up with some of their children, particularly late Brigadier Mayombo and his brother Okwi. We were privates in the army, in NRA. Forget about brigadier, we were all privates. By the time in NRA. And I told them the parts of Toro that they were children. Yes, the part of Toro that they were mentioning, I did do the operation that we are talking about in there. Then as far as Kasese was concerned, which is part of Rwenzori, I told them in one unit, then there were no ranks, general or captain or major. We used to call their fund the commanders. So Commander Tumine came to our unit, and Tumine told us that we should sing revolutionary songs, but on condition that we should not sing a non-NRA song. He wanted a new song. I said, now what do we do? And if we could not produce a new song, he was going to terribly punish us. So one person called Mawa, who was a private, he later on became a colonel and chairman, LC5 Kasese, is now a military attaché, I think, in some embassy. So Mawa told us to clap our hands. Clap your hands. We clap. Wow, wow. Without a song. I think because of the Kasese border Congo relationship, they have the culture of singing. Mawa came up with a song and saved the whole unit. We don't know what Tumine was going to tell us. And I told the Rwenzori area that I'm glad to be there because we have been around, and I grew up with their children, and it was nice. Of course, later on, after 86 is when we were taken back to school as Kadogos. You may know that I was, by O level, I was promoted a second lieutenant by senior 5. Yes. Makere came out with a captain and a degree in law. So I was happy to be in Rwenzori. But the point is, the infrastructural development, the ability to have tarmac from Kampala to Rwenzori and come through, and the ability to have to leave Fort Fortal to Sudan through various routes. Because if you leave Fort Fortal to Sudan, you can enter Sudan by 4 routes. 2 from Kitgum, 1 from Gulu, actually 2 from West Nile. Total of 5. Okay. Production is going on, the Matok is green, and all this, even at a national level, Counsel Kiza will agree with me, or if he doesn't, I will want to bring to his attention that there was an independent research done and found that of all the East African countries, Ugandans are the happiest. So whether they measure it in happiness-ogram or happiness-meter, that is it. And to be happy, it means some material interests are met.
We are just happy people.
So the situation, you can't be, happiness comes from consciousness. And consciousness is a materiality from your smell, your touch, your hearing,
but
your sight.
You say that even
it's not a spirituality.
Even during war, in that war that we were in, people used to drink. They were enjoying themselves in bars and having fun.
Was that
so
happiness?
that was a country.
Was that
I want to show you where it comes from as a country.
So
but
happiness is not a spirituality. Happiness is a materiality that a human being derives out of the 5 senses.
Okay.
So the fact that this
a
test
happy
shows
country.
that means it's not as gloomy as Counsel portrays it.
Thank you so much. I also want to agree with you on the border to border because Uganda received a fund that supported all the main roads to construct the main roads from Kampala to most of the borders of this country. So I want to agree with you on that particular.
So meaning the fund was properly used.
We can say to some extent.
If
But
the
let me
roads are
come to
there.
you. Gentlemen, you're both lawyers. There's something happening in your society as we speak, the land friends. So you
So
call
before we
yourselves.
go to the society, let me tell you something
In
about
just a
roads.
minute
eh?
or two.
You just need to go past Metiana to see the chaos on the road there between Metiana and Mobende.
There is a
It
construction
has
that has
reduced,
been-
yes, it has
Construction
been
is ongoing.
forever, but where the construction has not reached, especially as you go towards Mobende, it's a disaster.
Council, then comment about from Mubende up to Fort Portal.
Well,
Why
I'm
have you
telling-
not talked about that stretch that is very beautiful?
So there is a beautiful stretch
yes.
from Metiana up to where the construction is still going on, then the construction, and then before that. It has taken forever. Even on your way to Hoima,
Yes.
towards Hoima, there is construction, but there is also many bad patches. But the impression that the roads are first class, I don't know which roads they are traveling. in,
But they are good
I'm
roads,
also
Council.
traveled. They are better than Kampala chaos, but first class, I know first class roads
Have you
because
been to-
just like him, I am well traveled.
Have you been
I
after
know how
Mbarara
roads look like.
to-
Yes,
to
yes,
that-
that's
that
where I
stretch?
come from.
To
That's where I
Ngam,
come from.
You've
That's
seen
where I
how
come
beautiful
from.
the road
That's how
would
I
be.
come from. Narrow, thin roads are not first class.
Okay, no problem. Council, let's leave the issue of roads because we shall debate that until tomorrow. But
also,
in a minute-
Uganda is bigger than this thing, Western Uganda. I am happy he comes from Lira. But if you have gone to parts of northern Uganda, including these are Jumani Kitugum, you just need to look and you see grass-thatched houses, you see poverty staring you in the face. I don't see
That's
the
why
same
it's a process,
situation.
isn't it?
Yeah, it is a process, but we have been here for more than 35 years, and we still have grass thatched in Soroti, in Guru, where you see poverty. You see, you just need to go to the east and get on that road. Yes, go to parts of the north. It seems here the north he comes from is different, but the one I have seen, it's a different situation. But it's okay. we can-
Okay, thank you. Let me start with you on the issue of the council trying to, oust Semakade from his position as president.
No, the council did not try to.
Okay, let me talk about the secretary of the Uganda Law Society, who wrote a document that was showing that this gentleman, because of his derogatory remarks and his foul language, he is not, supposed to be the leader of the Uganda Law Society. What do you think about really this petition and this document by some
There are no
members?
language requirements for reading Uganda Law Society. And even the language was part of the campaign, he sold it to the majority of the lawyers, accepted it. There were those who were not decorum lost in this election. There is no expectation from the Law Society president to be civil, to be polite, to be diplomatic. No. The next president, the president of Uganda Law Society for now, is expected to bang tables, to kick ass, to tell it as it is, to use flowery language. But the whole point is that people are tired of the status quo, whether it is the political status quo, whether it is the economic status quo, and the Ugandans don't feel listened to.
So
Ugandans are yearning out for people who can listen to them, whose interests resonate with theirs. People are tired of these jackets. They are not interested in these neckties and wigs and whatnot. Even if I stretch to the bare, as long as I'm telling the
Council,
truth.
you're proud
People
of,
want
You
integrity.
are proud of how Semakade is defining a lady and speaking such remarks on the person of Abodo. Would you use the same language, really?
I mean, have you ever seen me use it? No, the answer is no. But I'm not Semakade. Semakade has his style. Semakade has his... The fact that he has used that kind of language does not mean that he is not fit to be president. And even if he was not fit to be president, there is a procedure. Yeah, ignorance exemplified by Munabi is not procedure. It's not a method. There's no method. We are law society members. We are not emotional society members. Monavi was expected to follow the law. It's clearly laid out in the law. And as he will tell you, you don't just sit somewhere in a bar, get drunk, and then start writing and saturate.
Okay, do you condone
and say that through that drunken stupor, you're going to expel the president of Uganda Law Society?
Do you condone that language that gentleman used?
Why are you focusing on the language? People are being on trumped-up charges.
But you can say that without necessarily re-abusing the person of...
what if you are not being listened to? People who have been polite, who are writing letters, who are frequenting offices to talk nicely, what have they gained? So if language is going to be a tool that forces discussion, then it should be. The late Toni Morrison was the first female black person to get a Nobel Prize. She said that she said something about that we die, that might be the meaning of life, and we do language, that is the meaning of it. Like language is very important. That's why you're saying it should be used responsibly, because it's everything.
Because I feel it's undermining the point.
And language is diverse. You get me?
Yes, sir.
So when politeness fails, when people are impervious to sense, some other people will resort to what looks like nonsense, things that are out of the box. People are running out of options. People are running out of patience. This Semakade in a society of lawyers got an overwhelming mandate to come and abuse people who are holding power. Stop ignoring them. Ugandans are tired of being ignored. Ugandans want to be listened to. Ugandans have real issues. You are on taxpayers' money. Listen to Ugandans. If you don't listen to them, someone worse than Semakade is coming. It's possible you can't rule out who knew that the Semakade was there in terms of like you could, yes, you knew him, was an activist lawyer, or go to, but you didn't probably know that he could do these things. So we need to carefully listen where Semakade is coming from, why he is using this language. Yet, have you ever seen Semakade trying to be polite? He can flow like a song. He can woo like a dove. He can coo like a dove.
Okay, but also...
You get me? So when he roars like a lion, you must ask, why is he roaring like a lion?
Okay, lastly, why is it that the Semakades are now the people who are on market? Because you've hinted on it, but I want you to just paint it, because it feels like the characters or the people who come off like Semakade are being welcomed, but yet in the old setting we would say this is not the kind
the
of...
The elites
politics.
have failed, they have betrayed Uganda. In the words of Besigye, the elites are the most useless Ugandans. Besigye.
He said that.
You get me?
He has even said that here.
Yes. So, when that elitist language, Cambridge, Shakespearean, like a few proverbs, and like people are not interested in that, they are interested in substance. Are you doing justice? People are not interested in whether you wear a suit or not, although the colonial heritage, the colonial hangover says that Aaron, to represent you or Awich, I must put on a suit. I can assure you, if I put on a cotton, a back cloth, and went and did a good job, someone wouldn't mind. These judges, even if they were half bare-chested, their breasts or chests were out, and they were not corrupt, and you are corrupted, were delivering judgments quickly, that would be the dignity. Dignity is not in how you dress.
Oh,
it's what you do. It's in your integrity. It's the quality of your reasoning, the quality of your mind, not the pretense.
Thank you.
This society pretends a lot, and God has a way of bringing the remnants and saying, no, we need justice. Is it you or we? So the one who speaks for justice, the one who stands for the truth, people will stand with them.
Okay. That is Counsel Eron Kiiza. That's why you always show up in T-shirts for TV interviews and jackets and jumpers. And I'm asking, how can a counsel be wearing that? But he has elaborated the point. What do you think about the remarks and the way that Semakade is handling or leading you people as the land lawyers of this land? What do you think about it, sir?
I feel very sad. It's very sad, it's very unfortunate that lawyers of sound mind could elect a person of Semakade. I met Kizza. We talked at the voting in
Nyonyo, yeah.
We met, we talked. I thought I was voting for Isaac. Not Isaac, this one.
Your candidate.
I thought I got the impression that he was voting for a sane person, just to find him voting for the opposite. So it's real. You see, ideally, legal profession, the genesis, the growth of it is that it's taken as a very noble profession. In fact, in the past, in UK, you need to be a member of the royal clan to be
accepted to study,
especially in the bar, or even an advocate. Now, because of the tedious processes of investigation and findings of the court, and that's why you hear in a ruling say the findings of the court, the findings of this court. Because of those processes, you need a sober, quiet, and very polite mind to get to the detail, so that, and you know the court process is adversarial, X versus Y. So the procedures need soberness, discipline, so that the court can have a findings. Now, if people are going to be jumping on the table and shouting and madness, I just wonder what kind of findings court will come up with. And this translates to our normal life, and that is what
he says that has been breeded by you, by the system.
No,
you don't hear sound people, you don't hear people who write. You want that. Those are the only people you hear.
By this guy speaking or taking the tone that he does, he's talking justice. I wonder what justice he extracts by abusing this DPP, Karamojong vagina. What that? Now, at the end, what is the fruit of justice he has got there? Has he got any justice by abusing this woman? That is what the justice that is seeking. Or you are actually causing injustice on the woman. Now, about the process of the secretary against him, Mr. Munabi, or Counsel Munabi, he himself did a similar thing on Attorney General. To many of us, we thought Attorney General and Solicitor General, their position was a creature of the law. And if you didn't want them in the council, however bad that law would be, you still needed a procedural aspect of removing it from the statute book. He did it arbitrarily. Now, if he did that, then how would he take the secretary against him? So my opinion would be that if the secretary has decided to do that, I would actually advise the state to provide police for the secretary to guard the council and bar Semakade and let him not reach there, and doesn't open an alternative bank account. We just maintain it because we can't have that insanity to go on like that.
To what extent do you believe that
just provide security, protect the secretary, put the police there and bar Semakade, and that is all.
You're bringing the military and the police and
but it is already a legitimate decision taken that needs to be protected by law.
Is it the secretary that needs to oust the president from
his position? It's just the same thing like asking, is it the president who ousts the attorney general and the solicitor general? It's the same thing.
So what does your law say about how someone is dismissed from the council?
It's a long procedures, you can ask him. The grounds are listed. The grounds are listed. But what I'm seeing now, to protect this madness of the society.
Are you saying government should take over?
Let us just provide, let the government just provide protection to the secretary in his new regime.
But okay, I want you to comment on the fact that Semakade is a product of your making, of the system's making. You have not listened to the sane voices, and the voices like the Semakades are the ones that you can listen to, people who are like that.
You see, I've told you time and again that no news is good news. Now, the occasional news that you hear are the bad ones. Meaning throughout every day, so many good things are flowing. And those good things which are flowing are not flowing in a vacuum. They are deliberate effort in a government, not in an anarchical situation, not in a stateless society. Therefore, for them to say that nothing is being heard when good things are happening every day, the general rule is that good things are happening. The exception is that a few things come up and that is what forms news. So is he saying that we don't have courts functioning? Is he saying that administrative processes are not functioning? The occurrences that occur, I repeat, are one exceptional cases to bad thing, meaning things are working. So why is he saying that nobody is heard when the society is running normally? The society is running normally. And I am tempted to think that I am told, for those who went to Kisubi with Sema Academy, I went to a great school, in a great Ntare school. But I'm told those who went to Kisubi found Semakade very bright in class, that he has a very bright record. But we had similar students in Ntare, and many of them got into problems. For example, we had a boy called Arinaitwe. Arinaitwe, we nicknamed him Omufumu. Mufumu in Kinyankole, you know Kinyankole, a witch doctor. Why? Because this guy Arinaitwe he was doing PCM in HSC. You just wake him up, say, Mufumu, there's a test. Or he goes to class, then you call him for a test. The man will get 99 in maths, physics, chemistry. And he would jokingly say, I'm an engineer in the pipeline. That is in the pipe. By the time he comes from the other side, he'll be an engineer. True to it, he went to Makere, was in Livingstone, he did electrical, which was taking the highest grade. Then he finished. He got a job in Bank of Uganda, was the one printing government checks. Sometime later, we found Mufumu on the street. Right now, he's on that road of from Ken Luchamuzi, the road which comes out from
even if you don't describe the road,
guy is insane. Okay. So I said, maybe I was lucky. I was not that sure much up there, although I was good and I did it. So some of these things, I think, borders very serious areas.
Okay.
The borders very serious areas.
Brilliance and success.
Even sanity of the mind.
Okay.
And it borders. So Arinaitwe was one of the best, even in technology in Makere, was still one of the best in class in Makere. And he did it, and even did computer, he got a job in Bank of Uganda. Okay. So, because I wonder how a person would want to excel as being Mr. Bad instead of excelling of Mr. Good.
Okay.
Now, first, let me say this. The final comment I wanted to make was that as we take, I'm yet to get a research done on the voting pattern. If somebody could do me a surgery on all the lawyers, what were what formed the consciousness of the voting?
What were the values?
The consciousness. Is it true that it was anti-government sentiment? That some lawyers felt educated and therefore they are not placed somewhere in government? Was it a tribal sentiment? Was there a particular tribe which was a majority? Was there a particular religion which was majority? I don't know whether somebody has done a research to find out the voting patterns, because it makes me hard because I told my friends that, because remember the most hitting thing was what Semakade had spoken in Makere at a woman who had asked a question. A woman asked a question in Makere. He really jumped on the woman. So I was saying, in an election, you persuade me to vote for you. How come Semakade has abused lawyers, intimidated them to vote for him?
Let's listen.
Really, instead of begging votes, are lawyers the type who should be intimidated and provoked to say, you must vote for me? And they did. I'm really waiting for research about what the voting pattern was.
In fact, he's going to answer that.
I really want to know.
But also add on the issue of Counsel Semakade and his decorum and the way he's acting, and he's in that particular office as we speak. But at the end of the day, Ugandans are feeling that this person is really...
Speaking of intimidation, to start where I ended, is that intimidation has been normalized by the NRM military dictatorship.
Yes.
Every election, gunmen go intimidate people in the village. So it's now part of the Ugandan life. Like intimidation, people don't even feel like their votes count.
Okay.
Where in a few places where they count, like in the Ugandan society, you saw what happened. I must also state it without fear of contradiction that the government lawyers that the Attorney General paid for didn't vote for his candidate. They voted for Semakade. There was near consensus on the candidate of Semakade as the suitable president for Uganda Law Society, especially in the context of the people he stood against. There were two other candidates, one of them dropped out. The NRM thing was there, but it was not the decisive factor. Of course, Chiparu was seen as a project of Salim Sare, who also brought him and withdrew him at the appropriate time. Atkunda he's a good man, he's my friend, but it is clear that he's NRM, although he doesn't front it. Anyone who wanted to know would there. Isaac, I'm not sure he has a political party, but he's an activist, human rights
He
lawyer.
spoke those words at an FDC event. So
I mean, did he say he belongs to FDC? And that was after the election. Of course, he has always associated with FDC among other parties and causes and what and what. So, I was amazed, actually shocked by my land friend saying that things are normal, society is normal. No, we don't. Most Ugandans don't live in a normal society. There are few people, Ugandans, who are in a bubble of normalcy, but most Ugandans are on the edge, financially and in other respects.
Okay.
Including the lawyers, that's why I'm coming.
Okay.
Including the lawyers. Why people voted Semakade, who was promising fire and brimstone, is because there is a crisis in the judiciary, which is a microcosm of the crisis in the
I
country.
saw Judge Chisache running away from the country.
When you see a Supreme Court judge running away because he has
To
been
exile.
harassed by the CJ and the president of the country, just know there's a crisis.
Okay, I had a question to ask. Mr. Semakade, as he pointed out, dismissed the Solicitor General and the Auditor General from the Attorney General from that particular council, and nobody said anything. Does he have the power to do that?
No, people debated it energetically for and against. It's not that anybody said anything. People had their views, and it's not comparable to the secretary whimsically in a drunken stupor, dreaming that he can expel the rest of the council alone. So in one instance, let me tell you the differences. In one instance, one person had the council behind him. In another case, the guy is acting on a frolic of his own, isolated, lonely. You get me? He's a lone wolf thinking he can survive in the jungle. But they are lions. They are going to eat him up in that jungle.
How legal was it to take out the Solicitor General and the Attorney General from that particular
The argument that Isaac made, which was really very compelling, the object of it was to guarantee the independence of the bar, of the Law Society. In other words, that the Lawyers Association must be independent from government. Solicitor General and Attorney General are government people quintessential. Yeah, they respect, and more so.
But he says there was a reason why those people were put on that council in the first place.
To spy. They were put there by the British. It's not the NRM. The NRM, if it is true, they wanted to revolutionize, they had to go. And that was the purpose of the 1995 Ugandan Constitution. To turn over a leaf from the bad history of colonialism, of dictatorship, and so on. Of course, they have failed on that.
Thank you.
But in that specific corner of the law, it is incongruent with the post-1995 legal order. And the Constitution itself, he talked about in 275 thing, says that previous laws which are incongruent, which are contrary, which are at cross purposes with the 1995 Constitution, should be modified and made compliant with the Constitution, which Isaac sought to do and which he ably explained on various fora, including his Twitter space. You can't compare that, decolonization, democratization, independence. Independence is a very big thing in the legal profession. That's why judges are given judicial independence. Even UN standards, require that even the bar itself, the Lawyers Association, must be independent of the government of the day.
Okay.
Why our biggest job as lawyers, it holds the government accountable. It is not tangled kit.
Okay, thank
No,
you.
can I say something? Just
In
one
a
thing.
minute, because
in
we're
a
going
minute,
for a
because
break.
me, what I'm not saying the law is good or whatever. Even if this law was saying, the president of Law Society every 3 months would slaughter an advocate. Even if the law was that bad, do you just wake up and say, I have thrown this law?
That's a
or
good
there's a
question.
procedure of amending that law?
Because that's the question.
That is
How
it.
legal?
Even
is
if
it?
this law was so bad that the constitution said throw it out, even if the law was saying, President Law Society every 3 months get Major Awich and Advocate slaughter, get Kizza after 3 months slaughter, even if the law was that bad, do we just stand up and say, I have thrown this law, it is bad?
Does it work in the favor?
How?
Okay,
Even
let's
if-
take a break now.
So how do you
I'm
do
still
that?
with Counsel Awich Pollar from the National Resistance Movement. He's the director of the External Affairs right there, and Counsel Eron Kiiza. We take a break now. When we come back, we look at the charges that have been put on Dr. Kizza Besigye. What does that mean to the country? And if we have more time, we can also talk about the 18 NUP detainees that were finally released from prison. We have that and much more in the second hour. You're still watching the Hotline Show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. Let's take a break right now. We'll be back shortly.
The Alternative Dig Talk. Real issues, real talk.
Go to the church, though.
Tawali man, what's up?
Man, can you imagine people just dump everywhere? Someone drinks water and throws the bottle wherever.
Come on, Rogers. What else do you expect people to do with an empty bottle?
Simanye now, recorder. Do you know that plastics take at least 450 years to decompose?
What? That's a long time.
Exactly. Because plastics are made out of a lightweight and flexible material that doesn't decompose easily. And plastics everywhere in the environment cause plastic pollution.
What is plastic pollution now?
It is the accumulation of plastic waste in the environment, like bottles, polythene bags, straws. All of these contribute to plastic pollution.
I have been using them without knowing their effect.
Yeah, a lot of people have. Plastics are a danger to the ecosystem, both on land and in water.
So how can we overcome this problem? Is there something we can do?
Oh yes, we can reduce by minimizing the use of plastics, reuse by repurposing them, or recycle by collecting and processing them into new products.
Everyone wants to change the world, but no one wants to change themselves for the world.
How about we
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well,
At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later,
Hi, Rogers. Can I ask you something?
shoot.
What does corruption mean?
Well, summarily, corruption is abuse of public power for personal gain or for the benefit of a group to which one owes allegiance. For example, when a public office is abused by an official accepting or soliciting a bribe. By the way, private people can be corrupt too, like bribing police officers to escape fines.
Okay. So exactly how does that concern me?
Well, do you pay taxes?
I guess, yeah. What does that have to do with this?
Everything. Because those taxes you pay are supposed to facilitate services you use, like water, electricity, roads construction, medicines in hospitals, name it.
Okay, that is much bigger than I thought. But it can be stopped, right?
Well, yes, it can, although it may not be as easy as it sounds. And here is the reason why. Corruption roots are grounded in our country's social, political, economic, bureaucratic traditions and policies.
So, what has kept it going this long? I mean, why don't we stop it?
Well, the main reason why it has been here for so long is because institutions are weak, either as a result of poorly defined ethical standards of public service, weak administrative and financial systems, or ineffective watchdog agencies.
What can we do to stop it?
At a national level, we must focus on strengthening the independence and effectiveness of public institutions that fight corruption. At a personal level, we must commit to never giving a bribe.
I promise I'll never give a bribe.
Well, that's a great decision you have made. Me and you now have to spread this message to all our friends. If we all do our part, corruption will be no more.
This message is brought to you by Alternative Digitalk. At first, we hit your gadgets with our state-of-the-art digitalized mobile studio with the debate on the road behind the wheels. Later, we launched our magnificent studios located on Plot 1A, Sewagude Close, Lukulinanganda, Machinde, Kampala, where we bring to you our must-watch shows like The Mighty Drive, Monday to Friday, 8 a.m., Hotline, Mondays, 7 p.m. As for legal matters, Twins at Bar, Tuesdays, 11 a.m., Wednesdays, 6 p.m. is Afro-Caribbean Link, where we connect Africa with the Caribbean. Voltage on Thursdays, 7 p.m., featuring a youthful panel. Interface with Dr. Kizza Besigye every Friday, 12 p.m. with his call to action against injustices. Snap Talk, Saturdays, 6 p.m. with the trio. A must-watch, The Political Dice, Sundays, 8 p.m. with the duo that never stammers, and so much more. Watch us live on all our social media platforms. We are the Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
The Alternative Digitalk. Real issues, real talk.
Break. You're still watching
So that is
the
not
Hotline
visible
Show
outside.
right
Yeah.
here on Digital
When she
TV.
said why, I was wondering.
You're still we are live. All right, 5 minutes past 9 p.m. This is our second and final hour of the show. My name is Edgar Mathew Karuhanga. It's a privilege that you're still watching us. Please send in your questions, your comments. I'm going to be reading them subsequently as we continue with the program. Last week, Dr. Besigye was arraigned in court. That was on Wednesday, and he was charged with 4 counts. One is soliciting for logistics or support for causing something or an insurrection in the country, but also possession of arms, 3 cases of possession of arms with him and another gentleman called Haj Obed Lutali. Now, these gentlemen have been remanded up until 2nd of December, but they were charged in the General Court Martial. Now, this has brought about a lot of sentiments and a lot of words. First of all, starting from the evolution of the real event. Couldn't Dr. Besigye have been arrested really on his return? What was behind the mind of going and picking him from Nairobi? Some called it kidnapping him from that particular area, and of course driving him to here. What were the legalities here and there? We are looking into that particular issue. And of course, over the weekend, some videos or audios, in fact they're audios, and some voices of Dr. Besigye, purportedly of Dr. Besigye, and a few individuals trying to talk about getting arms, drones, helicopters, and things like that. And many Ugandans are saying this is artificial intelligence, but according to a story that broke today evening by Chimp Reports, this was not just artificial intelligence, but this was a pattern. According to Chimp Reports, there is an individual, an informant, a businessman who's based in the Middle East, especially in Dubai, who was having conversation with Dr. Besigye over the time, and they were plotting this particular issue. And this person acted as a whistleblower, meeting Mr. Museveni in Kisozi, giving him all this intelligence, and Mr. Museveni, carried out this operation. And of course, according to that particular report, we're not sure about it, but this operation took over 600 million, no more than 600 million, to pick Dr. Besigye from Kenya to bring him here. This is a story that has just broke today evening, according to Chimp Reports. We're not sure about this particular story, but that is some of the issues that were raised there. I want to start with you, sir. Counsel Eron, you were a lawyer. What do you make of this particular experience of Dr. Besigye, picking him from Kenya, bringing him here? Generally, what do you make of how this gentleman was arrested in the first place?
Wrong, illegal, arbitrary, embarrassing. it's mind-boggling. I have no words to use it. No citizen of Uganda, no East Africa, no person in the world should be treated the way Besigye was treated. Kenya has become an unsafe space for foreigners in that country since the murderous Ruto assumed leadership in Kenya. People are being killed. Ethiopians, Southern Sudanese are being kidnapped from Kenya. Turkish. There is no foreigner who is safe. There's a family that has been compensated money, but I mean, what's compensation? So, foreigners in Kenya, including East Africans, are not safe. But it still behoves our country to treat our leaders with dignity, including opposition leaders. There is nothing wrong with opposition people seeking logistical support for removing the government of Uganda through legal means. You get me? All political activity runs on money. Politicians should look for money if they want to be effective. They should fundraise. It's legitimate, it's in the constitution. So the idea that Besigye was looking for money to run what is it? People's Front?
For transition.
For transition. That's a no-brainer. So it is expected. It would be responsible if Besigye didn't raise the money. But the video itself was fake. The Besigye have interacted with, the Besigye that people have followed is a non-violent man. He does not believe in the violent overthrow of this government.
What do you mean?
If he did believe it, he wouldn't have gone into... He wouldn't be doing what he's doing.
He used arms to take when they were taking government in this country, so you cannot say
that was on the under the leadership of Museveni.
Yeah, but he was still a gunman.
Having seen the blunder he had done, having seen that the violent change of government does not guarantee peace and democracy thereafter, they disabused themselves of the notion. Besigye, Muchamunta, and other group, they said young people begged them and they refused. They said, no, this doesn't work. You have to go for non-violence. So I know that non-violence is their creed. It is their method of dealing with the military dictatorship of President Museveni. They don't intend to use guns. They intend to use civil means of arousing opposition temperature until it overwhelms the dictatorship. Now, going for a private book launch of another senior opposition leader in Kenya, Martha Karua, it's a legitimate activity. Meeting Ugandans while you are there, it's a legitimate activity. Thinking and that it is good, the Museveni's dictatorship should be removed is okay. It should be encouraged. That Besigye has those thoughts is not rocket science. He wanted this regime gone yesterday. He just doesn't want to use guns. So when you concoct a video, an audio, claiming that he wanted guns, that's unfortunate. But in the legal side, this was an abduction. It was illegal. It was a forced removal from one territory to another, not following the law. It was following just force. It's not even pretending to follow the law. Besigye is civilian, having been abducted illegally, forcibly removed from a rendition without following extradition procedures. The military dictatorship takes him into a kangaroo court that is part of the executive.
What do you mean by a kangaroo court? That's a court that is mandated by the Constitution of the land.
No, there's no provision in the Constitution that mandates
The UPDF
kangaroo courts. UPDF Act is not part of the Constitution, and the UPDF Act was created to cater for the military. That's not just my opinion. It is an opinion of 4 decisions of the Constitutional Court of Uganda. Different sets of panels of the Constitutional Court have affirmed the logic, the constitutional logic, that the only court set up to try civilians for criminal offenses they have committed anywhere where Uganda and the courts have jurisdiction are civilian courts, which are part of the judicature, which are part of the judiciary, which can guarantee the fair trial. That is a non-derogable right. Independent courts, fair courts, courts that are accessible to the public, not a military court where even some lawyers can't access. Have you ever tried going to general court martial? Me, I have been. I've been in that
What
court
was the
since
experience?
2014. It's a military establishment. You are either in the military, since the Rwenzori trials in 2014, 2016, you are surrounded by soldiers. There is an atmosphere of fear and intimidation.
And that's what it's called.
Ordinary people,
a court martial.
So, and yeah, so that court martial is kangaroo in that sense, that it is the opposite of what a court should be. A court should be free, accessible, transparent, fair, independent.
So under what circumstances does the general court martial work?
The general court martial works properly as a disciplinary mechanism, tribunal for soldiers. If I am not a soldier, don't take me to soldiers to discipline me.
So how about a retired colonel, a retired soldier?
A
Can't he
retired
be
soldier,
tried in
no.
that?
A retired soldier, when you retire, you stop being a soldier.
How someone caught with arms in another country is tried in another country?
No, it can't happen.
You-
That
you're
is
gonna-
without
let me come to you, sir.
jurisdiction. It
Sir,
is illegal.
This gentleman is saying that there is this kangaroo court, that court of the general court martial. And many or some people share the same sentiment that this court is used for political games, for the wills of the state. It's an extension of the executive, as he said. What do you think about that, sir? That narrative.
Well, the position of court martial needs to be made clear. But let me just say a few things, because that's the gist of your question.
Yes, sir.
Then I conclude with it. Now, Counsel says that it's legitimate to think of removing Museveni. That should have been gone by yesterday. Yes, ideally that is why opposition is. They think about that, they mobilize their members and they do what. But all this, there are means, parameters to do it in a general election or in an election that is organized. Counsel is saying that the audio that talks about arms is not true. In other words, he's not saying, in other words, he's saying using force of arms is illegal. But he's saying the audio was concocted. So therefore, at this stage, you leave it to the courts to prove it. The prosecution will have to prove it.
The courts are kangaroo.
But at least we know, Counsel also agrees that the military aspect forms an illegality. Only that he's saying it was introduced in the audio. But then we leave that to court. Now on extradition, there are procedures. Again, I think the Besigye team will have to raise it as a ground which will be contested. And I'm yet to see the government lawyers on how they will argue that position. But the law is there, and I hope they did follow the due diligence of the law. I've not been so privy to the procedures. As I told you, I've been in Toro. I just came back to the capital just the other day. But I also want to draw your attention to what Besigye and other politicians, sometimes I hear the sentiment also on Honorable Chagulanyi. They have been saying, Umusaja ajagenda.
Yeah.
And when you ask how he's going, they don't tell you, not by election. In fact, Besigye has said he's not going for election. He's using other means. Of course, if other means was meant to be an insurrection, that is itself illegal. And that is why in most cases, government has been seen to be deploying for an insurrection. Civilians rising up and walking to State House. Because by word of mouth, Besigye said he was not going for an election, he was using other means.
These elections don't work.
Don't work, but the man will go. And of course, nobody could believe that the man will go by merely going to church, to All Saints Church and pray, and the man goes.
Though you don't even accept
the only option was an illegality. And therefore, if this is what is starting to manifest, then it is unfortunate. And of course, that is why, honestly, Besigye has a low opinion about the elites. Why? Because he has called on them to join in the mutiny. He has called on them to join on the insurrection. He has called on them to join on the uprising. But as I said, consciousness of a person is a materiality. Many people come and say, come on, including the youth. He said, but you're telling me to go on the street. You're telling me this thing is bad. You know what the youth tell you? They talk the Luganda courtesy that let me come back. Courteous, kankomeo,
there, you know, they're not going to come back.
He's not coming because he knows his interest. He knows the aspirations the government has met. He feels it, and his parents. So when you tell such a youth we go on the street, he will tell you kanjije. The few who go are the ones now the police restrain them here and there, and that has been the line, and that is an illegality. Now, on the question of court martial,
exactly,
it is true that it appeared in Court of Appeal, and it is true that Court of Appeal ruled that military court martial, civilians should not be taken there. The original text in the law, which was a law passed by Parliament, which the Constitutional Court said that law was passed wrongly. The law was saying if you are found in possession of military stores, or even if there are some offenses which ideally would be committed by service officers called service offenses, there are some offenses which they were saying should be tried in court martial. Now, in the wisdom, in the opinion of the courts, the 4 judges, they said that was not good. Meaning, therefore, that law would be, even if it is passed by Parliament, it would be now a nullified provision of that law. However, Attorney General and government seem to have a contrary view in the reading of that law, and therefore launch an appeal in the Supreme Court, which is waiting for a verdict. What we are not sure, Counsel has also not mentioned, is whether the Attorney General got a stay of the execution, that much as you have not applied, much as you have ruled this, it should not take effect. Let us wait for a constitutional court. My opinion is that if constitutional court pronounce itself on this, so that Ugandans are clear way out of this. Because in any case, if you have to say you're going to have a fair trial in court martial, that fair trial will still be in these ordinary courts anyway. So, if the idea in the opinion of the legislatures, if in the opinion of members of Parliament, they thought that that kind of offenses would be handled there better. So it's just a matter of transferring it to, they can even pass another amendment to a penal code to transfer the same offenses to, if a civilian is found with military stores, he commits an offense and therefore then put the jurisdiction that side. I do not see why it is a life or death thing. But I concur with my friend to say that I am a retired officer, for example. I wouldn't therefore be subject to service offenses. Service offenses are offenses which are contained in that law. That law which provision was challenged. That sections were challenged. So I am not subject to service offenses. I'm not subject to to court martial, like Besigye is not. Now, Besigye is not taken there because he was a former retired soldier. Besigye is taken there allegedly for the provision of holding military stores. Those particular offenses that the prosecution thinks it should be prosecuted there.
But the opposition feels those are political accusations. They are political, and it's not only about Besigye. Even the 36 FDC members, even the National Unity Platform detainees, those young people from that, they say it's really political in nature. What do you think about that narrative?
If a section of the law is preferred against somebody, and the ingredient of offense is put there, then I don't know how political it is. If it is dismissed, maybe on a ruling, like Justice Katusi one time said on some case like that the prosecution had done it in a way that it could not even convict a chicken thief. After court has pronounced itself and there's no appellate position, it is then that we can say this was a political thing. see how court has done it. But so far, to the effect that a particular charge, a section of the law is pronounced on you, and the ingredients of the offenses, they are veiled, then we wait for it. Political would mean you are just collected and dumped in prison. Let me tell you a clear political case. There was a time in Obote 1 where they passed a law called Preventive Detention Act. Preventive Detention Act means if you see Karuhanga is about to
do a crime,
you arrest him.
Yes.
That would be purely political. How do you judge I'm about to? Anyway, that was the law. So you would be arrested and charged for when you are about to. But ideally, a political crime should be arresting people, not charging them, putting them in prison, and that is purely political.
So why
But if you are arrested and a charge preferred and read in court, then it is until the verdict pronounced that you can say it's a political.
Okay, comment on the process of how people are arrested these days from other countries, abducted, not passed through immigration, whisked and brought back to Uganda, and then charged. As a lawyer, what do you think of that phenomenon? Because it has happened not only to Dr. Besigye, but also remember the 36 FDC cadres who were also abducted from Kenya, brought back, and then charged here. What do you think about that entire process, sir?
I don't know whether Counsel is aware. I don't know whether we have an agreement, extradition agreement between Uganda and Kenya. In many jurisdictions, countries have such kind of an agreement. So if you have such kind of agreement between two states, then you operate under that scheme of an agreed extradition arrangement between two countries. That if you get a suspect in your country, you bring it, and you get that side, you bring it. So it is I have not checked yet what agreement Uganda has with Kenya. But ideally, I started with it, that there are procedures of doing it. Like getting somebody in Canada or Argentina and wanting to bring. There are procedures. And that's why I'm saying the Besigye team will want to start with it, like a preliminary objection. They will want to start by contesting that. And I started by saying I'm yet to wait to see the position Attorney General or the DPP will take in this situation. But those are the two issues in that kind of arrangement. There is a law to be followed. It's not just grabbing anybody and crossing. Two, states always have agreements, and we have to examine if there's one such between Uganda and Kenya. Otherwise, bringing a person across the border is supposed to be a lawful process. And sometimes, if you don't do it well, can lead to a miscarriage of justice. Even if the person you had arrested really prima facie had committed some offenses, but you lose your case. So I also urge those actors who do it to do it in due process of the law, because you end up killing your own case at some point.
Okay. You're still watching the Hotline Show. There are some comments here that are to you. This is Kavuma Alex. He says, I think Honorable Awich statements are from a point of someone who hasn't been on ground. We are in a country where people die of hunger, and he's there talking about the few banana plantations he has seen. He has seen of the government big wigs.
Few.
Then there is this one calls themselves the Legal Boutique Uganda. The ghetto came, and it came to be heard. Just hear and then react. For now, stop with Mr. Mhoizi Junius, who says, Awich Pollar shouts at the highest pitch when trying to emphasize his points. Is that not against the decorum? Do you want to just respond to any of these comments as I come to Counsel Eron?
Well, first of all, I thank them for their views. It is their views, and it is healthy debating. But I just like to say that the Matoke that is talking is not few. The entire region is in productivity. And I did not only talk of Matoke, I talk of well-planned gardens. You remember my words. Well-planned, you see them across the hill. And I talked not only Matoke, but I talked of general productivity. And I even said that a good constitution should be the end result to see that there's production or productivity going on in society. So it is not few matoke. It's not, and about the high tone that he was saying, I think, I don't know when I got it, but I would like to show him that in many of my discussions, I'm very polite and actually loved. I can say that without fear of contradiction. Yeah, and actually loved. But I think the highest point today that I raised my tone was to demonstrate that rather than a candidate persuading votes, a candidate said, I would abuse you, intimidate you until you vote for me. That was the only moment I raised my voice. But my friends should know that not only in this program, but all programs are in the country that I appear, I'm a very polite and well-loved person.
Exactly. And when they ask you, you do not, when they ask you about germination, you answer germination.
I answer germination. Don't ask me germination and I tell you how long Museveni has stayed in power. How long, when it is germination, I tell you how long Museveni.
With Counsel retired Major Pollar Awich from the National Resistance Movement and Counsel Eron Kiiza. He is an advocate of the High Court. Counsel, let's start with the issue of finding arms in a foreign country, but also trying the person you found arms with, let's say hypothetically they were there, and bringing them to Uganda. First paint a picture for us.
Before, you people like arms, but let's first talk about extradition and the agreement. That was a very interesting area he took us through. So with extradition procedures, there must be a bilateral extradition treaty.
Agreement.
Yeah, agreement. Treaty is a better word.
Okay. Between
the two states for them to exchange people who are in their territories following the extradition treaty. But each country must have an extradition law. In the extradition law, there is a role for court to assess. So you apply that we want to extradite this person.
Yes.
And now the court assesses whether there is a political question issue. The court will not authorize, and this should be, there has to be a civilian court. It will not authorize the extradition procedures if there is a risk of political persecution.
So, for example, if we said Kakwenza,
so most people are like Kakwenza, not Besigye, because for Besigye, he didn't even need any of this brouhaha. He was going to come back anyway. But if, for example, there is an extradition treaty between Germany and Uganda, and Kakwenza is in Munich, Munchen, they call it Munchen, or Barin, as the case may be. So he will be, the court in Barin or in Munich will sit and decide here from both sides. The prisoner will get or the refugee or the person will get his lawyer, the government will get the lawyer acting, of course, in the interest of theirs, and the judge will sit and see. Kakwenza called the CDF this. Isn't this, is he safe? If return, is there a risk? And then the court makes a decision. The interesting thing actually is Julian Assange. Do you remember Julian Assange? He lost extradition proceedings in the UK, and he went up to the Supreme Court of the UK, and he was being extradited, and they made the deal, and somehow, but the area where he was released from was a territory of the US. But they made the deal and so on because of international pressure. The international people were on his side, but the legal system, he didn't succeed. In a UK that is highly independent judiciary, he couldn't stop extradition proceedings. That's how it's supposed to be. You don't just walk in a sovereign territory and pick people and go them. If you remember, one of the things that caused problems to Kihora was how the Rwandan situation was handling. Some of those incidents were alleged that the people would come here and pick, and people both here and they were outraged. It doesn't happen in a stable country. They are basket republics where you can go and pick, like what Ruto wants to make Kenya into, to turn into. But what you should remember is that there was a time, even at the worst of times in Uganda, Kenya was a safe haven. I don't know about Major Awich, but many people in government, many lawyers who are senior to me, were teaching in Kenya. By the way, Besigye was also in Kenya.
Yeah.
As a doctor, that's how he gets quoted. So people, when they found fire, when it was too hot here in this kitchen called Uganda, they would run to where? To Kenya. Now, they are not going to dare to go to Kenya because it has become unsafe. It's dangerous for an East African region to not have one country where people will think that they can run to. Because the people who are encouraging that situation, they will see the results for themselves. But the extradition, so if it is not an extradition treaty and they are informal arrangements, those are not the laws.
The only other thing that can accept it may be deportation if that person is deported.
Now deportation happens not at the instance of Uganda, at the instance of the Kenya, for example. Kenya thinks that Besigye has breached Kenyan law. They deport you. They deport you. But even with the deportation, although it is always swift, if someone is swift, he can also subject it to a process. Because even here, I think you have ever seen a judicial review of deportation. It's rare in a deportation. In extradition, it's more guaranteed. In deportation, it's quicker. Normally, you don't have a chance to run to court. But even in it, sometimes there are exceptions. But separate agreements are not part of our law. For us, all Ugandan laws are published. But actually, that's also Kenya. That's where the country. If it is separate, it's not a law. A law must be publicly accessible, non-gazetted. That as soon as the president assents to a law, it is taken to the Gazette and published. So that everyone has a chance to access it.
Exactly.
But you were asking me about arms. I know you people. You want arms?
Yes, I wanted arms also.
You want arms?
Can I say something about a tradition? Just to do this. You see, I'm saying this because NRM is one government that wants justice. In our manifesto as a party, there's a big component of justice and order sector, which we promise, including promising to recruit more judges. So we want justice, and that's why I'm saying this. I just wanted to bring in, if it could help, the case of this guy of ADF was called
Jamil Mukulu.
Tanzania.
Tanzania.
I think the Mukulu case, Jamil case was taken to a court in Tanzania, and it went through the same process, and it was brought here. I think that is the easiest successful extradition precedent that I can cite. He went through. So, and that's why I was saying the state actors who are there should do in due process of the law, because you end up injuring your own case.
And you brought that example, and one of our viewers had commented on the same, saying it seems the law is segregative because Jamil Mukulu, a renowned ADF rebel, wasn't tried in the general court martial, yet NUP supporters were tried there. What's Major Awich's comment on that?
Me, the only example I was picking from, not the end case of Mukulu, that is the trial, but I wanted to use it to illustrate extradition process.
Exactly.
Because he went through, his bringing back was granted by the High Court of Tanzania, and it was brought, and you could see that he didn't raise any dust, and even his lawyers would not go to take advantage of that situation, because due processes in Tanzania was done according to the extradition. Now about this case of being taken there, of course the ingredient of the offense would be that he would have been found somewhere in possession of military stores, and I think it would be a lighter offense than sometimes state reserve the right to charge you of a higher offense. In a case where I had declared war on government and I was running a guerrilla organization, I think being found in possession of military stores and being charged in court martial would be a lighter offense.
Okay.
And in any case, you will have to prove which stores you found with Jamil Mukulu. So, but in either case, it is the discretion of the DPP to choose, although he's saying that is discriminatory choice anyway.
Okay, no problem. Counsel, comment on that issue, but also paint a picture for us as a country. Where are we going with these things happening? People are trying to want arms at the end of the day, but specifically also the audios. How is that evidence admissible? Is it even admissible in court? The voice notes that we are listening to, how can that evidence be treated?
Electronic evidence is admissible in court as a principle, but it must be genuine, it must be authentic. So the court has a procedure of subjecting whether it is authentic, whether it's reliable, whether it's... If it is concocted, there are also methods. You remember Besigye has been a serial victim of these concoctions. In the Chakua case, they tried to give, I think, Chakua to speak through and they were exposed. In one of the cases where he was arrested for moving to one of the markets, they brought a video and they concocted it, and it could be seen that from here to here you wouldn't, it couldn't be in 1 minute, it could take probably a whole day.
So this is not the first time.
So this is not the first time that state is concocting evidence, especially electronic evidence, and failing. But this is the first time the state is using concocted evidence in a court martial against Besigye, because Besigye, I don't remember him. I think this might be the second time they have tried to put him in a court martial, but his trials have been in civilian courts, and I think they are fed up with civilian courts.
And just to add, he has never been convicted of any crime.
Not once, not once. Even when he got tired of some case, I remember appearing, I think he had appeared like 36 times, and he just stopped going there. And even the state was embarrassed. They just didn't continue with that case. So if it is a cooked up case like it looks to be, it will suffer. The thing about some of these trumped up charges is that the punishment is in the pre-trial. What you have already forced. Besigye had gone for a book launch, he didn't attend it. The meeting, allegedly, he didn't attend it, that he was supposed to attend. Your entire program, and he's a traveled man, he knows how travelers, you don't want to be disrupted.
Exactly.
Even a plane being... there is an airplane in the region that likes to combine some flights. It's not convenient. Even just a few minutes delay can be the difference whether you attend a conference or whether you catch up with the connecting flight. There are many issues with that. So when you get out of Uganda, you are actually in some level of almost vulnerable state. You don't want to be disturbed. You don't want to be interfered. So already Besigye has been punished. Even if nothing more happens, he has been punished. He is now on remand in Rusela. His wife has had to leave the job and come here, and she's now doing what Besigye is supposed to be doing, trying to mobilize support for him. So it's convenience. People who run the government must know that, it's okay, you can eat the 600 million, but get a way of eating it without making...
We have not yet confirmed that.
I mean, whatever the amount could be.
No, I'm not sure the money.
I mean, certainly they spent money. Don't think the security operations missions are expensive, especially cross-border ones. They're expensive, make no mistake.
And
even you have to pay for the intelligence, even if it is fake, by the way. You have to pay for it. It is also costly. So there is a lot of inconvenience, there is a lot of cost, but what if you eat that money without harassing people, without getting them through all this?
Because one time he says here, Dr. Besigye said that these charges are always put on him from a capitalist mindset, that they will, the state can, so the people in the army can say, now there is a legit cause, give us this amount of money because we have seen a threat here. And yet there is no threat in the actual sense.
Even war can be a business.
Yeah, it's a business.
You get me? War can be a business. So then what about these moral missions and so on and so forth? People sometimes sit somewhere and want to eat money and think, what can we do? In intelligence gathering, and what even consumers of intelligence have to think carefully to distinguish intelligence that looks credible but it's not credible, and sometimes the line is very thin. Of course, on the other hand, if you become too dismissive of intelligence, then you can also suffer. I think Major Wheat would say that you would rather err on the side of caution. But no, the thing of Besigye doesn't paint Uganda nicely. Okay. It doesn't paint Kenya nicely. Kenya was under Chibaki. post-Moi, Kenya had become this new breed of African country that was cultivating an image as a young democracy with its struggles, but trying to be democratic. We are proud, generally speaking, of its judiciary, although there are efforts to undermine it. The constitution is one of the best in the world. They have a vibrant civil society. So these ones are unfortunate, and all of this is happening under Ruto's civilian dictatorship. While Museveni is a military dictator, Ruto is a civilian dictator, and he's trying to turn Kenya into a big Uganda.
Okay, you said it's not legal for someone to be tried, for example, if they found them with arms in Kenya and you try them in Uganda.
There is no jurisdiction.
There's no jurisdiction.
There is no Uganda's jurisdiction is for things that happen within Uganda. So if I go and beat up someone in Kenya, the Kenyans try me and charge me. Kenya has a law, by the way. You might be here saying Kenya has a law, has institutions. So if Besigye committed crimes there, and they are real crimes, the Kenyan police would have arrested him. The DPP would have sanctioned charges. You would have heard that the Besigye is on remand in Nairobi, in Miami court. I forget the name. There are Nairobi courts, whatever. There are many courts in Kenya. He would have been dealt with by the judiciary, the DPP, the police, and other other elements of the justice and order sector in Kenya. The Kenyan authorities are very clear. Besigye has not committed any crime on their soil.
Okay.
Whoever has a problem is Uganda. Now, Ugandans are saying that he committed a crime in their hotels. Uganda has no jurisdiction. So the decent thing for Uganda to do is to report to Kenya with evidence. You get me? And then legally take Besigye to Kenya for trial.
Okay, there are some narratives.
But I don't think that is going to happen.
There are some narratives that the arms or the use of arms of violence is the only resort to ousting Mr. Museveni and his government. And my question to you is that after failure and defeat, is that the only provision? Or what do you think fuels such a sentiment? And does it come from a losing spirit? Can we say that the opposition has generally lost, that the only way is the illegal way?
I mean, if you really want to challenge government, you have to challenge it legally. It's better to challenge it legally. One, you remain alive. Secondly, the illegal means have led us to where we are. Government, NRM challenged the government illegally, and you see what we are in, the chaos. Spiraling corruption, no drugs in hospital. What? The economy is crumbling while the few people in NRM think it is going up. The thing is that from the bitter lesson of the NRM performance and the promised revolution, and NRM is the best demonstration of the fact that wars and guns can lead a country to nowhere. We need a new way of dealing with this.
So violence
violence is not an answer to our problems. We need non-violent removal of these bad guys and replace them with more competent people to run this country, people who are actually patriotic.
Okay.
I don't want the people pretending to run the country when they are stealing from it. No.
Thank you. That is Counsel Eron Kiiza. Please, I was coming to you.
I saw Counsel saying if I go and beat up somebody in Kenya, Kenya you can
be able to try him,
and then that Kenya has the law, all the laws. But I thought Counsel would have also brought in this dimension of crimes in Uganda of extraterritoriality. The list of crimes, I may not list them now, because as the Counsel knows, a good lawyer is not the one who crimes in the head, but knows where to get it. There are crimes in Uganda here, where if you commit outside, you can be tried in Uganda. So we need to look at the charge sheets, what the state will prefer against Besigye, if part of these crimes are crimes of extraterritoriality. That is crimes that you can commit outside. Even if you commit in Canada, Uganda will try you. Even if you commit in America, Uganda will try you. So those crimes are listed. So we are yet to wait and see the list that Attorney General will, the prosecution will come up with it and to see if these are part of the crimes of extraterritoriality. Those crimes are there. No, there are others which don't have extraterritoriality, but there are other crimes, and the list is clear. That this one, even if you commit it in Singapore, Uganda will still try you.
Okay. So what do you comment on what do you think about people who are trying to believe in violence as the only resort to take over government? What do you think about that narrative? You were a part of such people, but by then you were a child, so I cannot really blame you.
It is bad. Should be. They should forget about it and remove it, because it's not a good process. Of course, the council knows Kelsen theory of revolution, that when you take over government and it takes constitutional effect, then you're government by law. So NRM by legal notice number 1 of 1986 became government. But NRM was applied revolutionary violence. It was a revolution to liberate the country and give it back to the civilian. And how was it given back to the civilian? It was given back to the civilian by saying, first of all, the constitution provides the military subordinate to civil authority. And of course, Counsel and I has repeatedly mentioned that you can't even contest for a presidency unless you're a civilian. So, how you use the revolutionary violence to liberate the people and give the people power is what we have done. And therefore, from there on, non-democratic means, violent means, is not a good thing. And that is why a strong state, like the state we have in Uganda, will try to stop that and grant the democratic means.
Okay, thank you so much. We have 10 minutes to the top of the hour, which is the end of this particular show. But we have a couple of questions. One, I think both are to you, Counsel Eron. One says, what does this incident speak on the relations of both countries? I think he's meaning Kenya and Uganda. Then he continues to say, as we head to the 2026 general elections, it seems Museveni is using such tactics to suppress the opposition in Uganda. What do you think, Counsel Eron?
The relationship between Uganda and Kenya is actually good, but what this incident exemplifies is for wrong purposes, the causal relationship between two dictators at the helm of these countries. Ruto is trying to copy and paste Museveniism from Uganda to Kenya, where I think it might not work, but the little it works is already with devastating consequences. You can't count how many nationals are dead or have been renditioned from that area, losing jobs. The Turkish, simply because of the same politics, because the Right Academy tycoon is at loggerheads with Erdogan in Turkey. Like, it's all petty politics, but the Kenyan presidents have always been above the fray, saying that even if, the way you see South Africa, they can deal with a country, but still host and respect the rights of an opposition in South Africa. Kenya was the same in the region here. It has changed. And it is sad because even under Amin, even under Moi dictatorship, Ugandans were in Kenya, in exile. Yes. And they were not being picked up like chicken on the street. So it's very absurd. So the relationship between the people of Uganda and the people of Kenya is happy, is good. They love each other, they marry each other, they attend each other's functions, they visit each other even up to now. Okay. But the presidents are up to some evil plan.
Okay.
Yeah, and the sooner both countries change their presidents, the better for the East African region. What was the other question?
It's what I want to read. As we head to the 2026 general elections, it seems Museveni is using such tactics to suppress opposition in Uganda. What do you think?
Museveni has never left the bush, in a sense that he's still the gorilla that we welcomed in 1986. So yes, he will continue harassing the opposition. It's up to the opposition to be resilient and resist or counter that harassment. But the idea that Museveni can be there without, even if Museveni did not have a strong enemy, he would create one. His default position is fighting He's a violent man. He believes in guns. He can't survive without a gun. He can't walk without a gun. Even when there is a disaster, he goes in a Bududa, wherever you see him. He's a man of guns. He worships guns. He hugs guns. He fires guns. He is a gunman. So that is what his opposition have to deal with.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jen, as we come to the close of the conversation, Counsel, I want you to paint a picture for where the country is moving now with the trajectory that we are seeing. And this is, by the way, to just add on this issue, that we have a year to the election, and you know what happens every time an election here is there. It will not always be as business as usual. What do you think about the country as we enter such a season and such a time?
No, I think you already have your answer, because it's an election season. NRM is an election thief. It's an election stealing machine. NRM is undergirded by militarism. Soldiers will get away from the barracks wherever they are and go in your villages to ensure that you vote the person they want. It's basically, it's more of the basic things you're seeing. More harassment of opposition people. Already it has started. TikTokers are being convicted for even skits and games and plays. So we shall see more of
One was sentenced to 32 months.
We shall see more of the same in proceedings that are clearly illegal.
Thank you so much, Counsel Eron Kiiza. Okay. I'm going to come to you, Honorable Pollar, which your last remarks, but generally on the country, you always have a positive outlook when it comes to Uganda's improvement. Do you still carry the same sentiment, or something has changed, sir?
No, something has not changed. If it is on the matter of the Dr. Kizza Besigye, it is a matter in court, and it will be proceeding, and Besigye has gone through that. The truth will come out. So we leave that to judiciary. But on the holistic picture of the country, I'm optimistic and very positive about it. Uganda is on the right course. The good thing that we have is that, unlike some states, countries which don't have a strong state, we know of countries where some part of the country would not even be having a presence of a state. You find the whole eastern or whatever region is completely stateless. In the case of Uganda, with the 45 million people also, we have a strong state. And that is a state that can detect a possible procedures of use of violence to overthrow a government. And in the process, what have we gained? The 38 or so years NRM has been here, Karuhanga, countries have died. Uganda has not. Yugoslavia died to the extent that even Serbia and Montenegro qualified for quarterfinal World Cup. They still broke it to 2 countries. So now if you win the cup, where will you take it? Sudan has broken. Somalia has broken. Libya has broken. Many countries have broken. So the ability to have a strong state is how we shall continue to be that the people has put in the 3rd schedule of the Constitution, the indigenous communities, from Kisoro to Karamoja, from Arua to Kampala, we shall continue to exist harmoniously as a country. And that is why I call upon those who want to do violence not to take that path, because Uganda has built a strong state capable of detecting that, because it has to hold a country as a one piece, contrary to the countries that we have seen breaking and breaking and breaking.
Okay. Thank you so much, gentlemen. There's a gentleman called Aaron. You're Aaron Fanero. You were asking something about Martha Karua being able to litigate in the country. I don't know, Counsel, can you use a minute or two? Can Martha Karua...
Yeah, she